Alright, hope y'all are doing well. Today we are working on a little code snippet that deals with dictionaries and then using for loops to loop through them. So let's get started. Again, as always, just a reminder, the whole purpose of memory diagrams is to help you read like a computer. Computers read top to bottom, they read left to right, and then they read inside out. When I say inside to out, what I mean is, for instance, before we can send anything to output, we have to first evaluate whatever's returned from this function call. We can't just print artist underscore counts parentheses songs parentheses. We have to first evaluate this and then send that to output. Cool. Well, let's get started. The first thing we do, we have a function definition. So over in globals, we're going to write artist count. And then over in the heap, we're going to get an ID for it. The function from lines, well, the first of the signature to the last indented line, so 3 through 11. Cool. Tie that back to globals. And now, if we ever encounter an artist counts function call, we know exactly where to find it. Next is songs. Songs is a global variable, and it is of type dictionary, where the keys are strings and the values associated with those keys are also strings. So over in our heap, we're going to get the next available ID. It is a dictionary, strings, strings. Notice this directly links up with us explicitly typing that for our dictionary. And then we get to go fill in some values. Well, in dictionaries, key value pairs are separated by commas, and keys are separated from values by colons. So our first key value pair is B2B and Charlie. So for here, all right, B2B and Charlie. Oh, next one is Hello and Erica. Hello, Erica. Next we have Thea and Butcher. Oops. And then Wu and Erica. I always wonder what these are references to. They're like shoutouts to TAs or favorite musical artists. I don't know. Oh, so we've built our dictionary. Now we just have to tie it back to globals with this ID so that whenever we call songs or we use songs, what we're doing is referring to this object in the heap. Cool. And in fact, that's the first thing we do. And the last thing, kind of. Our last line calls print. So, oh, sweet, let's put something in output, right? Neat. Neat. No, we have to call artist counts first with the argument songs. Well, let's get started. Artist count, the name of our function. Every function call gets a return address and a return value slot. Return address for this is just the line that it was called on, so line 20. Don't have a return value yet. But we do have one parameter named playlist, which is a dictionary of strings and strings, and that just so happens to be the type of songs. So songs is ID1 in globals, so ID1 is going to be our argument for the playlist parameter. Great. All right, let's get started. First thing we do, we create a variable named artists. It's of type dictionary of strings and ints, and it's going to currently be empty. We are creating it. So we're going to go artists. And down here, I'm just going to leave it empty. Next available ID is 2. It's a dictionary of strings and ints. Int. And it's currently empty. So we're just going to leave it like that. Tie it back to our stack. And we're ready to rock and roll. Oh, line 5 says 4 track in playlists. Well, whenever we see a for in loop, this is going to be the data structure. So playlist points to this dictionary. So whatever we're doing, we're looping through through this playlist dictionary. What are we doing? We're saying for every single key, because when we loop through dictionaries with a for loop, this value right here, whatever we decide to name it, is going to be keys in our dictionary. Saying for every single key in this dictionary, do whatever's indented underneath. So we're going to make a little track local variable. We're going to leave it blank for, well, no, excuse me, not going to leave it blank. We're going to assign to it the very first key. So E to B. What's next? Next, we're creating another local variable called art. I'm going to make it a little bit lower because I feel like I'm going to need the space. What are we doing? Well, we're assigning to it the value of playlist at track. I say playlist at track because this is a subscription notation for accessing values in a key value dictionary. This is the name of the key. This is the name of the dictionary. So we're going to this dictionary and accessing the value associated with this key. So playlist is the dictionary. Track is B2B. We're saying go to this dictionary, access the value stored with this track. Well, that's Charlie, so we're storing Charlie in art. Cool. Line 7. If playlist at track, well, it's just art, right? We already got that. We could just say if art not in artists. Right? That's fine. If playlist not in artists. Well, artists is this dictionary. So what we're essentially saying is, hey, take playlists at track, which is Charlie, and look through all the keys and check to see if it's one of those keys. That's all it's asking. Well, there are no keys or values in this dictionary, so it is certainly not in artists. So what do? Well, we create a new key value pair. Remember, this is how we create a new key value pair. We specify what we want to be the key and then the associated value. So artists at art, well, artists art is Charlie, set to 1. So our first key value pair is going to be Charlie and 1. Okay, skip that else block and we'll loop back up. Track is now, it was B2B, but on the second loop through, we move on to the next one. So track is now hello. Move it over here a little. Cool. Now, moving on. Art is now going to be set to playlists at track. Well, playlists is the street. Track is going to be our house, and we're looking for the person in that house, which is Erica. So, Erica is going to be the value stored at Art. Great. Now we're going to see if playlist at track. Well, playlist at track brings us Erica. If it's not in artists, well, is it in artists anywhere? Erica is not to be found inside of this key column of the artists dictionary. So we create a new key value pair. We're saying, cool, go to the artists object of the artist dictionary, make this the key and this the associated value. Well, Erica is currently the key. Sorry, I forgot to cross that out. Erica is currently the key, so that, or is currently what's stored in art, so that'll be the key. And then 1 is going to be the associated value. Cool, halfway done. Looping back up. Track was hello. Now we're moving it down to fiat. Great. Moving right into this for loop. Art is set to playlist at track. Well, playlist is ID 1. Track, well, track is fiat. That brings us butcher. So art is now butcher. Great. Playlist at track is not in artists. Well, playlist at track we already know is butcher. So we're checking to see if that is in artists, right? Artists is ID 2. Butcher is not there. So we created yet another key value pair for butcher and 1. Cool. Skip that else block. Move right back on up. Track in playlists. Well, track was fiat. Now it's woo. Almost done. Art is set to playlist at track. Well, playlist once again brings us to this dictionary. Woo is track. So we're looking at Erica again. So art is now going to be set track. Erica. Cool. Now we're asking ourselves, if playlist at track, which we know is Erica, is not in artist. Well, is Erica an artist? Ding, 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 ding. It is. So we get to skip this else block, or if block. Instead, move into the else block. Else block says, hey, go to artists at art. Artists brings us here. Art, which is Erica, and reassign the value to be one more. Add to it, if you will, 1. Well, the value is 1. We're adding to it 1, it's going to be 2. Looks like a Z. There we go. Cool. Going with that, and what do we do now? Well, we return artists. Artist was ID 2. Return value is ID 2. Oh, I should note, we've broken out of this for loop, right? We've gone through every single item in this dictionary. We've hit the end, so we are ready to hit our return statement. Return artist brings us ID2. On that, as soon as we have a return value, takes us back to the return address. That's line 20. So line 20, the function call that sent us on this whole rigmarole gets replaced with the return value, which is ID2. So we're printing ID2. Our output is going to be this dictionary. So the way we write dictionaries is just the exact same way that we create them. We start with a curly brace, and then key value pairs. So Charlie, keys are separated from values by a colon. Key value pairs are separated by a comma. And here. Well, this is our output. Cool, and that's it. I would like to make one quick note, which is notice that there are no strings around here, right? You've been told to print out exactly what you would see in the terminal. When you're printing stuff out into output, it doesn't have strings around it or quotes around it. However, if you printed this dictionary out into output, you would have quotes around strings that are inside. Oops, I made a mistake here. That are inside of these data structures. So strings Charlie, Erica, and Butcher would have quotes around them. Cool. And that about does it for this memory diagram. I hope this helped. If you're still struggling or if you need any clarifying questions or questions clarified, please come to office hours or tutoring, and TA will be happy to help clear things up for you. Cool. All right. Y'all have a good one.